top 20 video game music selections to soundtrack the end of the world, chosen by Claudio, Kris, Rudi, Xenmas, Prince, and even Leenat got his picks in there 15 minutes before the end. This track is The Final Hours from Legend of Zelda Majora's Mask. It's a beautiful theme. It's just bathed in these like real spooky, ethereal synth voices and choral voices. The MIDI of the N64 really works it doesn't need to sound natural, it needs to sound creepy. What I like is that the chords, it's a very like cyclical thing that never seems to find a home note. So it just feels like you're slowly circling down the drain like a spider, unable to get out of the sink. Doomed to live your life in the pipes. Maybe you can crawl out like Andy Dufresne in Shawshank Redemption, in The Spider Redemption. Maybe not. Let's move on to the next one. It's going to be interesting. Thanks, Chris. It's going to be very interesting to see if every song sounds horribly depressing, or if people found other meanings to the end of the world. Well, let's move on. Yeah, get ready for a whole lot of fucking SMT, which I allow because the music is always great. So let's move on to our next selection. So this one is chosen by Kris. This is from Frostpunk, my most recent game addiction. This is The Last Flame. I love that emotional part of Frostpunk when you hear the first dogs barking and you realize the world is returning. Man, a great track, really big builder. I can't remember quite where this appears in the game, but it's a real slow, real kind of nice slow build, real sort of like twisty, winding one. And like Chris was saying, that's the nice thing about real strings is that you can really evoke a lot of emotion out of real instruments, especially stringed instruments. They really respond to being a real player instead of MIDI. And maybe they're not even MIDI, but they definitely sound pained. They can sound really haunting. They just have this like creaking sound about them. And they sound kind of lonely. It's not a big lush orchestra. It sort of sounds like these are the last ones we have, and then in the world. And then every once in the track does build and has a bit like a big climax, but it's sort of a terrifying climax, like you don't want it to come. Really sparse, and then they'll sort of bring in warm elements and cut them out. It builds but doesn't explode. Yeah, I like that. It just goes up and then down, just like nature. Just like life. You're born and then you die. Great track and an incredible game. Our next track is chosen by Rudi. This is from Wachenroder from the Sega Saturn, a Japanese game that I believe got an English translation. Composed by Ian MacDonald. The track is Avalanche. Cool. Wachenroder. You know, when I hear cool music like this, and I see these interesting games that were on a Saturn in Japan, I mean, I know you can emulate a lot of that stuff, but when I think about the Saturn, it makes me think, if you see a video game console, video game consoles come out, they're really expensive, and they get a little bit cheaper, and then they kind of become like really cheap. And I'm not really much of a collector, but it does make me think I should just grab them, while I can. Grab those little guys, and definitely on the CRT, because eventually, like, I'm sure right now to get a Sega Saturn, it's probably pricey. Like, if you've seen N64 cartridges, I don't know what it's like right now or what it's like for you guys, but the last time I checked in, some kind of a retro video game shop, N64 cartridges were crazy expensive. GameCube games are really expensive. Like, what was it? I think Paper Mario and the Thousand Year Door is over $100. Suikoden, whatever, is really expensive if you want the physical ones. And it's nice to have the physical ones because you can play them. They're going to work. Although you do need a disk drive that's going to work. You will have it in case you ever need to like rip it or make a ROM for yourself or something. They won't be around forever. Oh, so the fan translation was released 2 weeks ago. That's right. I thought this is the one you were talking about in Discord. It's a really great track. It definitely has a cyberpunk noir feel, like somebody had stated. It's really it's got a slow beat that is confident, so it feels like a death march with a lot of sort of yearning and violins around. It's almost like you're walking down the hallway on your way to the gas chamber. All your memories and thoughts are swirling around, and it doesn't matter how many melodies there are and how many bright sounding things there are. It's not going to stop you from getting to where you're going. Sometimes those shaders look good. A lot of times they just kind of make it look like they're colored in crayon. Makes it really soft. Great track. Nice looking game. This is the first of many tracks from the Shin Megami Tensei franchise, chosen by xenmas from Shin Megami Tensei 5 at Shinagawa. That is a really, really haunting bit of music it's got going over the top of it. That does sound like, what did somebody say? Sort of like an alert, like an alert klaxon, like something you'd hear ringing out at like a refugee camp or something. Like nuclear threat incoming. I like the way that it pushes through the beat. It kind of plays like, in a lot of rock songs, you have that kind of like, sort of like but they just let that wailing synth go through. It's like, sounds just obnoxious enough to be really effective. And like Leenat said, everything else is just like really dirty and distorted, and it's pretty sad. It's not going to drive you crazy listening to it, but it really does set a tone of something terrible about to happen. But that you might come out on top at the end of this world. When you think about SpongeBob SquarePants, the movie, the game on GameCube, you think, end of the freaking world, man. This is Welcome to Planktopolis, chosen by Prince. I think this one to me is like you're sneaking up on the end of the world, perhaps. The end of the world is coming and you're creeping through and you're like, maybe if we're just like tiptoeing around, we can sneak up before the end of the world notices we're here. And we'll go somewhere else. We'll go to Mars with Elon Musk. Unless they don't mean end of the world in a literal sense. Maybe they mean end of the world in a figurative sense. Like the world as we know it. Which could mean the entire universe ending, time itself, or maybe they just mean, society crumbling, or maybe Earth. I mean, be more specific, please. We'll take the world. How about you do your ending thing, and we'll just take the world out of it. and you do it over there. Okay? Our next selection is by Claudio from Xenosaga Episode 2. Yuki Kajiura. Communication Breakdown. Composed by Yuki Kajiura. All right, I'm caught up. I like the very dramatic dialogue subtitles overlaid over some anime tits. Not that they're necessarily anime tits in any way, they're being like big or crazy, just they're like perfect cleavage in sort of like that office setup, like it could be your teacher. It always comes back to wanting to do your teacher. Anyways, yeah, this track really has everything. It kind of has that like Metal Gear Solid futuristic heist when you get the hurry, Captain. That really slow, floaty PS2 texture. And yeah, the big choirs obviously make it really epic, and they're chanting with like a real sort of ferocity, a real urgency. Definitely to me sounds like you're in the Gundams. This is Earth's last defense against evil Uranus coming to rain fire down with its fissures and hemorrhoids missiles. And it's up to these bunch of obnoxious looking idiots to save the world. But there's also a lot more chord movement in this than I would have thought. It's a nice one. Xenosaga always gets me. And I'm always surprised, because I'm not that familiar with it other than listening to it here. Our next selection by Kris from Warcraft 3, Frozen Throne, Last Days of the Alliance. Some more great militaristic propaganda to convince you that you need to sacrifice yourself. It'll be heroic. Get in that tank. Well, get outside the tank. We'll be in the tank. You go forward. Unless they have anti-tank missiles, then you get in that tank. And you go to Valhalla. You die for whatever cause we have. And for sure you'll be in heaven. What's in heaven? Lots of great stuff. Everybody ever wanted to see. And a bunch of virgins, which is gross. And your dog, too. All your dogs. And they're all there for you. It's a really beautiful track with a lot of nice movements. That's a really I like that reverby male chanting. Sounds like you're in the Great Halls of the Mountain Kings. I think if Skyrim was ever going to have more movement in their tracks, or like more speed or sort of like more personality, and I don't mean that in a negative way. I obviously love Elder Scrolls, but they have a feel to them, and they never really move too fast. But if it was ever gonna get sped up, if you're ever like gonna play Elder Scrolls on like 1.25 times speed, then I think it would sound a little something like this. Our next track, composed by Yoko Shimo. We have 2 tracks from her this week. This is chosen by Rudi, of course, because it's from The Legend of Mana. The track is Time of Darkness. There's something about that organ that makes it sound very personal. It makes it sound like you're closer to this end of the world, or that you're in a smaller space, much like when Prince says it sounds like a Halloween castle, whereas some of the other tracks with the chanting vocals and like lots of reverb, it makes it sound more distant or much grander. Like you're looking up at 1,000-foot high God coming down to say, "What did you do to my earth, you idiots? Stop taking everything out of the ground." Whereas when you hear that organ, it sounds like you're there. Because you only ever hear organ in... I guess it's the same like if you heard guitar, you know. They're instruments that you see being played. Also the way that it's kind of mixed, just over kind of to the right and like feels closer. Feels like it just appeared, you know? Like I'm watching somebody play it. It's a nice track. I really love the look of these, of Legend of Mana. This looks like when you were playing, say, Final Fantasy VI on the Super Nintendo and you imagined, what are RPGs or JRPGs going to look like when you have a CD? They'll have more room and more colors and more music. You'd think, it's like you imagine, it's like when you're trying to imagine what are VR games going to be like? And you just can only really imagine games you have now plus VR. And then in actuality, it ends up looking like totally different things, you know, polygons and... mostly just polygons. And ray tracing. Man, we haven't heard Shin Megami Tensei for a few minutes now, so here's another track from that franchise chosen by xenmas. Shin Megami Tensei 4, Infernal Tokyo Underground District. Man, that is fucking awesome. That just pounds. It is called the Infernal Tokyo Underground District. That is some really fun, just pounding, grungy synth. Perfect tempo, perfect groove. And yeah, it just sounds like you're sort of descending down. It does sound like you're in Infernal Tokyo Underground District. What's the deal with the, what do you call it? What's the deal with that? The disc. That looks really futuristic many years ago. Man, I hear a track like this and I think, I feel like I should play this game. And I have a 3DS. I'm sure Nintendo will only charge me $50 for it, considering it's a game from another lifetime. Play SMT3? Probably the least end of the world themed track we've had. Oh, Chrissy Downer. Yeah. I guess it's like an end of the, like Leenat said, it's sort of an end of the world party. You know, like Snow and Lightning Returns. Oh, that's just the album cover? Oh, okay. Right. Yeah, you're right. That's why it says original soundtrack on it. It's just a character from the game holding a CD. That's hilarious. That's cool. Like if I was getting, I don't know, like a Nintendo vinyl, it'd be cool to see. It'd be cool if the cover was, you know, Mario and the crew. You know that that painting where it's James Dean, Marilyn Monroe, Humphrey Bogart maybe? They're hanging out at kind of like a diner. I'd want something like that, but it's like Mario and the princess and probably Toad having a vinyl party. And they're dressed like fucking hipsters. If we're not playing Shin Megami Tensei at the end of the world, we're definitely playing some more SpongeBob SquarePants. From the PC CD, Nighty Nightmare, Plankton's Dream, Level 2. Track. Yeah, it definitely sounds very nightmarish. Like it sounded like things are kind of being pulled apart. Dark things. Even like almost every note is being like things are being stretched. Like a vortex has opened up and the world is being sucked into it and being splayed apart. If this is an end of the world track, it's when the vortex has opened up and is taking us all away. And as you see all of your loved ones and all your stuff getting sucked in, this is the end. Hey, my couch. There I was getting prepared for today's show, looking at all the music nominations on our Discord group chat. And I see a new message. Has somebody responded? Has somebody commented on each other's great tracks? Is someone just saying, really happy, excited for the show? Nope, it was Leenat dumping his 5 tracks in there. Luckily, this is how far I was along organizing. Because I go through, I line up all the songs, I line up gameplay if I want. I got my little notepad ready so I can take timestamps, even though the chapters don't seem to work. But maybe they will in the future. I have hope. Here's a late Leenat pick. From Shin Megami Tensei 5. That's what Leenat thought. There's not enough Shin Megami Tensei. This is Fairy Forest, Verse 1. That's nice. Yeah, like I like those little drums. They sound like tablas to me, like Indian sort of drums, like pop, 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 kind of like djembes, but higher up sounding. I like the way that they sort of let those bells come in and do their chiming and these like deep, mournful 80s synths. It almost sounds nice. It almost sounds like you're home, but you're in a new home. Like Chris was saying, this is after the end of the world. The big explosion. The countdown happened, the explosion. You open your eyes and you're in like a whatever the post-end of the world is. This dystopian place. Everything's purple. Your couch is nowhere to be seen. It is a new reality where you must stand or sit on something not as comfy. Oh, I see. Yeah, so, because we have heard some Shin Megami Tensei 5 earlier, and it was very grungy and dirty. This is like a very soothing... You're in a fairy village, for God's sakes. The fairies are just zooming all around you, soothing your body like a sentient cream. Next up from Claudio, from Chrono Cross, Prisoners of Fate. Wow, that is very, very powerful. Very moving. A lot of color to it. I think we hear some more bells. Bells are the candidate for this week's element that you maybe didn't expect to hear, but you are hearing commonly in a lot of the tracks. Although I'm sure we probably could have predicted that there'd be bells. For whom the bell tolls. Bells are definitely have like an importance to them, especially a big bell you can hear. Used for hundreds, if not thousands of years to alert the people in the village or anyone within bell listening distance that something important was happening, something was starting or something was ending. No percussion at all until that. I guess if you can count the bells percussive, they can be. Just long drawn out synths, heaviness, all the synths sort of moving together. A little bit of counterpoint. Oh, those big swells! Actually, that's probably the first time you hear any kind of percussion. It's just a big rolling shabba-da-boom. Kind of reminds me of the Hungarian anthem, which is a great anthem for the end of the world. Very dramatic and sad. And it's built on those, what do you call those, glissandos? Finally takes you back home. Our next track, selected by Chris, from Fallout 2. The all clear signal. The track plays in Vault City. Sounds like GoldenEye. Not sure if what we're looking at is actually Vault City. Probably not. Looks pretty dirty. This looks more like an outpost or something. Anyways, what a great track. Like somebody said, Mortal Kombat meets GoldenEye. Anytime you hear that pow, wow, 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 that heavy reverb. I like those. They're sort of like those gooey synths. Almost like they have a wah pedal on. That's like a nighttime, electrified, dangerous, exotic feel. It's perfect for Fallout 2's vision of the future. Oh yeah, it'd be great in Shadowrun. And there's something about that, similar to one of the first tracks we heard, that sort of Metal Gear-ish, futuristic heist. That really light percussion, it sounds like somebody sneaking around, like something could be stalking you. Like you're trying to track somebody and worry about being tracked. Some futuristic dystopian night market. Real nice. Our next track is chosen by Rudi from Xenogears, the one who's torn apart. Really, really nice, simple track. Yeah, I really do love that The just extended, sinister, low, bassy synth note. Some other elements just kind of creeping around, and that ominous, really cold synthy bell. It just uses the space and the stereo panning to tell most of the story. It's gorgeous. It works really well using the PlayStation sounds that it has too. Man, that's just perfect. Our next track chosen by xenmas. This is composed by Yoko Shimo. It's called Graveyard Labyrinth. The great Yoko Shimo. There's so much... Man, she does such a great job of, like, keeping a lot of things sort of suspended, but movement all around it. It's a bit doomsday-ish, but still really thoughtful. And it's just incredible, like all of her stuff. I feel like we must have done a Yoko Shimo episode. She could have a part 2. One of the greatest composers of all time. Hey, were you worried there weren't going to be more Shin Megami Tensei tracks? This is from Liberation DX2. New login, Alter World, chosen by Prince. It's like downloading your picture on a 56K modem. Oh, is she naked? No, there's a skirt. I really love that right at the end of it. Really makes me, it's really refreshing. It's a nice bit in that track. Reminds me of something else. I don't know. It's very evocative. It's a great little track. Some tinkling piano, some choirs. It's the end of the world. It's all raining down on you, but it's fairly nice to listen to. I've never really seen this game. It's got all the Persona spell names because it's Shin Megami Tensei. It's very vertical. Sexy ladies, and looks like a simplistic way to showcase a lot of cool animations and strategy. Alright, this next track's really gonna make you feel like shit, and not just because it was chosen by Leenat. It's from Pathologic 2, Mad Mother Earth. What a great, simple track. I love that bass. Boom. Well, that's another thing we're hearing a lot of in these tracks is notes being stretched or grabbed and sort of bent. Gives it a very unsettling feeling. And sort of those like exotic, deep sort of drums give it kind of another worldly, disconcerting feel. I guess if you didn't grow up with those kind of drums, you know, and they're not really like straight rhythms, they're sort of these like kind of like a slower Latin beat, but not sexy, just sinister. Really nice track, and it does look like a very interesting game. I like dialogue-heavy games like that. Seems like it's got a lot of depth and a lot of thinking. And that it just works perfectly with the limitations it has as like a basic 3D model PC game. Press left control to concentrate and find your bearings. Can the colorful, flashy Hyrule warriors save the day? As we get down to our last 3 end-of-the-world tracks, this is chosen by Claudio, Eclipse of the World. Big epic track with some sort of cinematic taiko drums, and definitely works for like an exciting climactic end of the world flair. I've never really known much about these games other than Dynasty Warriors on the PS2. Seems like you're fighting a lot of different enemies in these games, but you're kind of just hitting 7 out of them at a time. It's not like you're, you know, if you're dealing with 20 enemies, like you're doing 20 different attacks for each enemy. It's just like, this one knocks off 10 of them. This thing knocks off 10 of them, you know, all at the same time. Which I guess is satisfying if you need to build up those attacks, but it's not quite what I thought it would be in terms of, you know, like you're in a martial arts movie or, you know, like a Braveheart, for lack of a better term, you know, like big war where people are just bah, 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 you're the hero bashing your way through. Hyrule Warriors. I feel like this track is pretty suitable for Hyrule Warriors. Big, epic, but not a ton of personality. Our penultimate track from Kris, from Bastion, The Soul Regret. agree, Chris. The Bastion soundtrack is so great. It reminds me a lot of Hades with that sort of like 12-string guitar or some other stringed guitar instrument that has that high-end kind of shimmer. It sounds like two notes are being played at the same time. I mean, Bastion's got those deep trip-hoppy beats and sort of like a desolate cowboy, deserty type of guitar. Electric guitar, and then you get that acoustic guitar, which makes it feel a bit more fantasy-based. Which is nice for the world of Bastion, where you recognize some things, but it does feel like you're in just something like a totally different reality. What a great game Bastion was, and a great soundtrack. Just a very simple, top-down, beautifully animated, beautifully drawn. Try to make every attack and weapon feel really good. A perfect game and a perfect soundtrack for it. Our final track of the week, chosen by xenmas, is yet another motherfucking Shin Megami Tensei track. This time from number 3, Nocturne, Ikebukoro. Next week, no Shin Megami Tensei allowed. What a great track. It's so nice to hear what I would have to assume is a real drummer. Just going to town on really getting to be the solo instrument. You let everything else just plays like a real simple groove, and you let the drums just play and accent and embellish and just play with all kinds of subtleties. Really beautiful track. We've heard a lot of soft synths that are just padding it out this week. Great track. All right, next week, we will not be doing any Shin Megami Tensei. February 1st is the start of the Lunar New Year, right? The Chinese calendar, as we go into the Year of the Tiger. We may not trust the Chinese government, but of course we can still celebrate China. Its great cultures and history. They say the Lunar New Year is a time to honor deities and ancestors and to be with family. So it could be the Year of the Tiger. It could be about honoring deities and ancestors and family. Lunar New Year could be about moons, could be about Chinese culture. Yeah. 2022, the year of the tiger. What's the tiger all about? Brave and cruel and forceful and terrifying. The symbol of power and lordliness in Chinese culture. People usually compared the emperors or kings with the tigers. They're also a patron deity for children, and parents will prepare the shoes and hats with tiger designs for their babies. Cool. To celebrate Lunar New Year, homes are thoroughly cleaned to sweep away ill fortune and welcome good luck. So I think there's lots you can do with that. Yeah, we did talk about China today. We're talking more about their government's ill practices, but this isn't going to be about the Chinese government at all. This is going to be about their lunar calendar and their celebrations. When I think about like the astrology of the Chinese New Year and how you're separated by year, and I think about being in high school and how the people in my grade, my year, we all kind of felt like we had a similar feel, and like the kids that were older than us, it seemed like they were up to no good. They were always doing drugs and getting into trouble. And our grade was just not into that. Well, a little bit here and there, but it's like a totally different feel. I'm from the year of the rat. Rats are smart. You can hardly ever kill a rat. They survive no matter what. Thanks, everybody. Thanks for watching on YouTube. It's over for you.